Yo, call me a nunchuck the way I chuck nuns. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Cage. Today, and only today, we are here to talk about the Sonic movies and Sonic games, right? I feel like now that we've reached a point with this movie verse where we're at a trilogy, I feel like they've done enough great things and unique things and cool things that I would like to see the games start to implement. But I still also think there are things from the games I would still like to see implemented in the movies. Now, I'm not gonna go into like the specifics, like be like, I want this specific plot adapted, right? I'm just talking about more like loose things, like things that are built around the world, characters, etc. What can each of these things learn from each other? Because we have seen, obviously, that these things are influencing each other, right? We already know that during Sonic Frontiers development, Iizuka and the team were talking about how the movie influenced the combat, right? Obviously, you think of Sonic movie 2 and 3, they are especially adaptations of original Sonic 2 and 3 and Knuckles, right, as well as Sonic Adventure 2, right? So obviously these worlds are learning from each other, characters, but I figured we would start, can the games learn from the movies? And of course, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to your boy, support the content, and keep the hype going. All right, let's start with humans, right? I know obviously in the Sonic series, humans are not like a thing that don't exist. It's not like there's something new. They are something that have been part of the series for a long time, but they've kind of left for a while, right? I guess you could technically argue Sage is a new human character, but I don't know. At the same time, Sage is kind of like a robot. She's part of an Eggman branch, but it's been a long time since humans have been part of the Sonic world. They sort of like pushed that aside. Ever since, what was the last time? Would you say Unleashed was probably the last time humans were really relevant in a Sonic game? So I feel like I would like to see the return of that, because I do think in the movies, while in the movies I do think there's an overflow of humans, like there's too many, I like the idea of, you know, humans and Sonic characters coexisting. I think that's always been a good idea, and I always felt like that's when Sonic stories and things were at their best. You know, you think of Sonic Adventure, right, when you are in Station Square, and you have the humans you interact with there, right? You have Sonic Adventure 2, how heavily involved Gun is as a plot line, right? You think of Shadow the Hedgehog, for as flawed as it is, right? Again, you have like the Gun Commander heavily involved. You think of Sonic Unleashed, right, with Professor Pickle and the cast, you know, exploring the world and different places in the world and talking to different people. Like, I've always loved that sort of element of humans in the universe, and even Sonic X, for all its flaws, I always did like, you know, obviously when it wasn't too much, I liked the idea of having characters like Topaz alongside with Rouge. I liked, you know, some moments of Chris existing, right? There are some characters and people in Sonic X that like are tolerable, and obviously Eggman is a human, but for example, I think of like a character like Agent Stone. Everyone loves Agent Stone, and I genuinely feel like if he was introduced in the game or some character akin to Agent Stone. Now, I guess you could argue Sage might be technically what is the new Agent Stone for games, right? Another character that's a subsidiary of Eggman that might be able to do things in place of Eggman when he's busy or something, because I feel like that, like, Agent Stone to me is infinitely more valuable and entertaining than Cubot and Orbot. I know a lot of people like those two, but I've never really been a fan of Orbot and Cubot, so I feel like another human character akin to Eggman that could work with him would be really fun, such as an Agent Stone. And obviously, you know, in the Sonic universe, I think Gun is involved, which they're involved in the game, but I would like the games to start, you know, bringing back another Gun member or two, right? Like, obviously, we have the Gun Commander that we know is back in place because of Shadow Dark Begins. Well, he's not back in place, but we've seen him again after a long while. But I don't know, bringing back some of the military involved, bringing some characters that might be sick of Sonic characters in their universe and trying to do something. Like, there's something there that I think the movies are tackling pretty well. Like, you have the Kristen Ritter character in Sonic Movie 3 that didn't do much, but I like the idea of her, right? Even in the Knuckles show, I like the idea of these two Team Rocket goofies with, what was his name? What's that Kid Cudi and the girl like trying to stop Knuckles, and they got the big fist. Like, I like the idea of these human characters that want to stop Sonic characters, but I also like the ideas of, you know, even Elise as a concept is still really cool. So that's one thing, is that the humans in Sonic, I honestly don't even think should all be gone. I like some of them. Like, I love, you know, Agent Stone, Eggman, Donut Lord, Maddie. I feel like there are characters that add value to the cast, you know, make them think about their actions, how, you know, what they might do affects the planet, etc. And so obviously it's been something gone from the games for a long time that I would like to see return. And you know what's funny is like we are getting hints of that, right? Obviously this fucking pink hair girl, right? This pink hair mystery girl that we have been asking and wondering about forever. Who is she? What's going on? Why does she have a whole ass billboard in the Sonic movie? Why is she in multiple Tales 2? Why is Ian Flynn and side team, you know, constantly teasing her? Like, what is going on with this character? Now, we do know that she's an archaeologist. Some people think that she is one of, Maria's, I believe, sister or cousin, something like that. I'm not sure what's the family branch with, but she's related to Maria, and some people think she might be introduced in the next game, or she might even be introduced in Sonic World Crossroads. Either way, it's at least cool to have another human character in the conversation. Another thing that I think the games can take from the movies is team dynamics, right? Team Sonic has not really interacted or been the same in a long time, right? You could argue Frontiers, Final Horizon, they kind of have some moments, but it's not the same, right? Each character is kind of doing their own thing. They're in their digitized world in the DLC. They sometimes interact, but it's not like they have a dynamic. It's not like they're really, it doesn't feel like they're a team anymore. It just kind of feels like everybody knows what they're doing. They do their own thing, and then we get together during, you know, family gatherings. Whereas I like the idea of, hey, let's go back to an adventure where it is like, you know, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles go together. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, right, work together on something or a plot line. Because that was one of the things I loved the most about Sonic Movie 3 was just how fun it was to constantly see Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles like interacting, fist bumping, having a back and forth. Even, you know, I love on the plane scene when they're going like Team Sonic and he goes Knuckles, right? Or like Knuckles is talking and they're making fun of him and be like 1,000,000% muscle, like stuff like that. You know, like I like the idea of team dynamics, you know, even the end of the movie when Knuckles is diving down to save Tails and Sonic, or even Sonic Movie 2 when Tails saves Sonic. Like, I don't know. I know obviously these characters again do interact and help each other, but I think bringing back that team dynamic that was present in like Heroes would be so nice, because what was the last time really Team Heroes genuinely did something together, right? I guess you could argue Sonic 06 really was the last time that those three were sort of together in a story setting. Now, if you really want to be technical, it hasn't been since Sonic Heroes where you were really all of them together. So that's why, hey, maybe the rumors of a Heroes remake will push forward. But yeah, I think team dynamic is something that I think the movies do super well, that I want to see continue. Because I would even say, like, in the Knuckles show, like, Wade and Knuckles interactions were pretty fun, which was cool too. But yeah, like, I don't know. I don't like the isolation of Sonic characters too much. I think if anything, like, even Sonic, like, Shadow Dark Beginnings showed that, like, yeah, team dynamic with Shadow, Rouge, and Omega is cool. And so I think from the movies, though, I want Team Sonic's dynamic to continue because it felt like they were brothers, and I would like to see that continued in the games. Huge one I want to see from the movies adapted to the games: 1v1s, bro. All right? I think this is the number one thing Sonic Team needs to look at, right? The Super Sonic versus Super Shadow fight, I think, is going to be remembered forever. I think that's going to be one of the best moments for Sonic fans for the rest of our lives. And I hope Sonic Team sees that and goes, all right, well, it's very clear people like rival battles, right? And I think we really, and I mean really, haven't had correct, true rival battles since maybe you could argue Generations. Now, it depends what you see as a rival battle, right? If you want to be a smartass, technically, like in Forces, you have a rival battle, right? Or even, you know, in Sonic Shadow Generations, right? You fight Mephiles, and I think that counts. Like, I think the Mephiles fight would count. You're fighting another hedgehog-like character, right? But I want that continued, right? I want a super fight. Dude, imagine a video game version fight of Super Sonic versus Super Shadow. That shit would be legendary, right? But you know, remember how back in the day you had a simple fight with Sonic versus Knuckles? Well, look how Sonic versus Knuckles is in the movies, and look how cool that is. I would love to see a game version of Sonic versus Knuckles today with, you know, mid-fight QTEs and setups. And I think Shadow Generations is the perfect approach for that. Like, I think the Mephiles fight is a perfect template of like, all right, he does some cool attacks, you get some cool QTEs and cinematics in between, you get cool shit. Like, I think that's a perfect template. But yeah, no, after that movie, like, I think Sonic Team's first thing they gotta look at is, all right, we gotta bring back like high scale, cool rival battles. Because even back in the day when Sonic and Shadow fought, I mean, we all know how it is. It's like you would just spam a homing attack, right, until you hurt him, right? But a grand scale with cinematics, because even in Shadow Gens, when they build up to the Sonic versus Shadow rival thing, it's raw, but it's a cutscene, right? And I think it's cool, and I love that cutscene, but I want to play it. So please, 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 if there's one of the biggest things they gotta take from these movies, it's these rival battles. If I don't have a super versus super fight in the next 2 games, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna be angry. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go stupid. And honestly, I can't think of anything else besides that. I will say setup, right? So there's a small thing I would like if Sonic games did sort of what the movies did, and that was setup for the next thing. Now, I noticed with Sonic games, it's a little different because they often just tell a story, there's a resolution, and they move on. But I feel like I would like a bit more like setup to make me go like, oh shit, what are they doing next, right? Which they kind of did in Frontiers, right? You know how Frontiers ended with Eggman on the computer trying to build backstage? Well, that kind of quickly got resolved in the Final Horizon DLC. So that post-credit scene went away. But like, I feel like if they had done an extra setup, that would have been awesome. Like, one of the most disappointing parts for me of Shadow Gens was the fact that there was no like post-credit thing where you saw like, all right, what is Shadow currently doing? What is something you can tease me on to show me like what would Shadow be doing today? Because Shadow Gens takes place when like Generations happened, which is like a long time ago. So I still got no idea what Shadow is up to nowadays, right? So I would like that sort of movie influence of the post-credit scene, a la, you know, set up for the next product or thing. Now, again, like I said, I know games are different because development changes. They don't want to stick to something, but I don't know, I feel like setting up to something, building up to something in these games would be really fucking cool. And it doesn't even have to be like the big central plot line. It could even be like just what's one character doing? What's going on in one of the places in the Sonic universe? So something like that. And again, in Frontiers, you could argue they kind of set up Team Sonic to do things on their own, like Knuckles wanting to explore the world, Tails. But my one worry with that is that that's gonna be like a little too broad, and they're just gonna be like, oh, we traveled and everything. In the next game, they're all together. So if next game they commit though, and you are, you know, Knuckles doing something completely different, Tails doing completely something different, then I eat my words, shit, they're learning. But at the end of the day, these movies don't exist without the games, and I still think the movies can take a few more things from the games. I don't think it has to be everything, because at the end of the day, these are very different things, and I understand that. I'm not someone who's like, I need everything to be one-to-one. I just want to see the same thing I played in a movie. No, I love what they did with movie 3. Adventure 2 in the movie style, fantastic, right? There are some things I would have changed, and I would have added a city escape, added a track or 2 more, but for the most part, they made the assignment, they did their own thing, it's fire, right? But if I was to think of my first biggest thing that I still need these movies to do, that is Sonic areas, right? I still think we are tethered to Earth, right, too much when the Sonic world is filled with iconic locations and places we haven't been to. I mean, we still technically haven't even been to Green Hill Zone in these movies, right? I feel like we haven't even done that, right? The fact that we haven't been to a Stardust Speedway, a chemical plant, I guess you could argue, you know, the Eclipse Cannon, but even then, like, it's not like we had the Ark properly in the movies, right? We haven't had visited any locations from the game universe. Obviously, as soon as I want to talk about it, I'm blanking, but you think of areas like Spagonia, you think of areas like, I don't know, what's the area in, where's Elise from in Sonic 06? Like, you know what I mean? Like, Sonic locations, I still really want to go to, and I think that's going to be the big thing that I hope movie 4 does because of the whole time travel aspect, right? Is I hope we get locations that are more Sonic like. I want to see a cool set piece that looks like Stardust Speedway, right? I would love to see an area that looks as remotely as crazy and colorful as Egg Fleet, right? Obviously, an area from Sonic Unleashed doesn't make too much sense because like it's the human world. You could even argue they mess with real locations from Sonic games in there, but it's not the same, right? I think everybody knows that like there's nothing like a Pumpkin Hill in the Sonic movies. So I would like if they actually started using those rings to go to other Sonic universes. And I'm hoping this is a budget thing. I'm hoping that now that the budget has been increased, right, that they're able to, open up that portal to actually make set pieces and areas to allow the Sonic characters to go to places from the video games. Of course, in the comment section below, let me know what areas you'd love to see them visit in the movies, because obviously, there's so many locations in Sonic games that they could go to. I mean, there's been enough. You could argue, again, Earth covers a lot of areas in Sonic games, but you know what I mean. Like, there's a lot of places we could go to from the Sonic universe. I'm looking it up just because, I forget some of these, but, an area like a Studiopolis would be crazy, right? An area that looks like Flying Battery would be cool. Stardust Speedway, Speed Highway you could do in real life, but even like, how have we not have like a beat set piece at an Emerald Coast, right? Something like that, or even Mushroom. I guess you could argue Mushroom Hill was teased in movie 2, that's where Eggman's hanging out in the beginning of the movie, but like, take me there, have the characters do things there. And like I said, I'm hoping it's a budget thing and that we'll get to do more things there. Now, we are definitely getting better about the movie soundtracks. I think everybody agrees that movie 3, while still subtle with some music, did a pretty good job. You straight up have Eggman's theme orchestrated. We have obviously the orchestrated big Live and Learn, right? We have even subtle nods to City Escape in like the London run area. You have the sad theme that plays at the end of SA2 when Sonic, Knuckles, Tails are hugging at the end. Like, there's an embracement of the themes throughout the movie, but I do think we need to start doing it a bit more, right? Like, City Escape should not be as subtle as it is as a track, how it's handled in the movie. I feel like that should be a little bit more in your face, right? Even with Knuckles, I would like a bit more of his themes incorporated. Like, I would like if Knuckles, when he shows up, you hear like some of those guitar licks, like something like that. Or I hope in movie 4, right, Amy's theme, like, again, you don't need to explicitly play the song for me, right? But like even some subtle like nods of like the da 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 da, just that sort of pop theme. Obviously with Metal Sonic on the way, I need my hey, and if you don't do the hey, at least be like down down down. Like, I need more of the game songs, because again, these games have such an incredible catalog of music that need to be incorporated and can be worked on. And I think we're on a good direction. I'm not even complaining about this. This is something I'm happy about, but I just want them to push it even further. Another thing I think that the movies can learn from the games is Sonic's behavior, right? I think, so far we've had the growing up and learning Sonic, right? But I would love if, I don't know, I mean, we kind of get hints of this at the end of movie 3. I think everybody agrees Sonic during the post-credit scene is much more like Game Sonic, right? When he's just like, when he punches Metal Sonic and he's just like, if you're going to try to attack the fastest thing in the universe, you better not miss. Something like that, right? Where he's a little bit more snarky, video game energy. And I think that's one thing I want them to know, because it feels like Tails, they nailed him, right? He is just like how he is in the games. Knuckles, fantastic. I feel like they do a spin on him, but he's improved. He's awesome. Shadow, immaculate. Wouldn't change. Not even change a hair on his head, right? Let alone his personality. But Sonic, I think, is the one that they use as like, he's cool, but he's still like growing up and learning. And so I hope by the time we get to movie 4 or whatever is next, we start getting that like cocky, like a bit more grown-up attitude Sonic that we've come to love. And I know a lot of people love movie Sonic. I like movie Sonic too. I still think he's cool and fun. I just think he could learn from a bit more of Sonic's snarkiness from the video games. And honestly, another thing I would like to see is I would like to see a bit more lore embracing from the movies. I feel like the movies sometimes play it a bit safe with the lore. Like, I know there's Babylonian text in movie 2 when they go to that like statue. I know there's stuff like, you know, technically the Flames of Disaster storyline happened in to Knuckles in the past. Like, that's how he got his powers. Like, I think there's little stuff like that, but I would like a bit more of openness. I would like them to at least embrace a bit more of Sonic's lore and that sort of storylines. The games, like, I would like to even see Eggman tackle the animal thing, right? You know, like in a lot of the early Sonic games, the whole thing is Eggman takes, you know, these animal creatures, and it's always been sort of this conversation about what's the term, industrialization or something, right? There's a word for it, right? But it's when, you know, Eggman tries to really take over the essence of the world and make it, you know, all digital, all robotic, right? And I think movie 4 might be tackling that with Metal Sonic, right? And obviously Amy's a character that loves nature and animals, and so I hope that's like a little bit more embraced as we go into the future. But I think lore is an important one. I think it's okay for them to even just, not even just lore, but like, hey man, embrace that this series is a little bit more cartoony, right? Now that we're heading, you know, deeper and deeper into the world, we're about to have how many like Sonic characters? We're about to have like Team Sonic, you know, plus Amy, plus Metal, plus Shadow. Like, we're about to have like 7 whole ass Sonic characters, right? And I feel like the more deeper we go in, right, the more you're gonna have to embrace that this is a cartoony world. And so I hope, like I said before, we visit more locations. I hope we see more Sonic characters. But I also, like, I understand that with movies, they're not video games. You can't do like what you do in Sonic Heroes, where you have like 4 storylines with 4 different characters in one thing and everybody gets their time. Like, that just gets messy when you're making that, right? But obviously that's when stuff like shows come in and spin-offs and yada yada. But I do, yeah, that's my biggest hope, is like, keep embracing the world you've created with the movies, but also embrace what makes these games so cool and special, right? Let me know also in the comments, what do you realistically think is a storyline you'd want to see from the games in these movies? Because for me, right, like when I think of like must-tell storylines for these movies, I don't even think they got that many left in them that they could realistically do, right? Because I think they're gonna sort of do a fusion of CD and Heroes with movie 4. But then what do? I guess you could have a spin-off movie for Shadow where, you know, he explores his past with Black Doom stuff. You could, I guess, technically do 06. I feel like 06 would be the pinnacle, right? You do the 06 storyline, you change it heavily, right? You really just have 06 by essence of having, you know, Silver, maybe Blaze, and maybe you have Elise, all that stuff. But I feel like after that, I don't see them doing Unleashed in a movie universe. I don't see them doing stuff like Colors. I don't see them doing stuff like Generations. That's when we get into the more one-off, weirder storylines, right? You could argue maybe they do Frontiers. I mean, Frontiers would unironically be like a really cool movie, you know, of like just going to these desolate islands and things are isolated. Stuff like that would be really cool. But yeah, I don't know really what else they can do past a few more of these. But of course, I could be wrong. And of course, I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Guys, what do you think these two things can learn from each other? I'm sure there's a thing or two I've forgotten, right? But I would also love some side series, man. Like, give me a Sonic Riders special, right? Like a side special or something like that. You know, give me a fun Sonic and the Black Knight like mini series. That could be really cool. I don't think they would do that just because of how the essence of these movies are. But, you know, I would love the embracing of some of the weirder stuff. But guys, that's all. Thank you all for watching. You're the best. And of course, I will see you all next time. Peace out. I love you. Bye.